What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tack Bodybuilding, and I'm here with a friend of mine, Nick Komodina. Some of you guys may know him, some of you guys may not. This podcast is going to be a little different from the normal ones. We're not going to get into like the science of bodybuilding and whatnot, but more so mentality, business, all stuff that relates to bodybuilding, but stuff that people really don't think about much. So I guess let's just start by introducing you, Nick. For those who don't know you, your story, how you got to where you're at now. I know that. How old are you?
29.
29. 29, but I feel like you're super fucking wise for 29. I feel like you've done more than most people have by 29. I feel like you just have a lot of value
I
by
appreciate that.
yeah. So I don't know, how did you, like I said, how did you get to where you are now? Where did you start off at? I know you're from San Diego originally. You had a gym, you were a coach, you coached bikini athletes, now you are helping scaling businesses. So just
Yeah, it's
start
been
from
a
the beginning.
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Well, I grew up in a trailer park with a single mom.
In San
You
Diego.
know, it was like 2 hours inland, like more in the mountains. So like we literally had a trailer on a plot of land on the side of a mountain.
Okay.
And yeah, trailer didn't have any wheels on it. There was holes in the ceiling. You could only stand in two. Your feet could only go in one very specific place in the bathroom. Otherwise, you'd fall through the floor. Like it was cool. Right. Yeah. We had flashlights in the bathroom because the light didn't work. So like it was cool. And I never thought that anything, I just thought it was normal. Like every month to go to Kmart and buy a new tarp to put over the roof so the rain didn't get in. I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
I never thought that I was any lacking, but
it's the environment
my
you were
mom
introduced to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think early on, I've always been a leader in a capacity of challenging what is normal or considered normal by most people. I always acted out in class. I always questioned the teachers. I always did homework an unorthodox way and got in trouble for it because it wasn't the way that they wanted to teach it.
Yeah.
So I always just had this just like rebellious nature of challenging the status quo. And I never really had any sort of influence in regards to entrepreneurship at all. My mom worked at a church. She made $28,000 a year. And like, that was cool. That was cool for us. There was never this drive to get better or do better or be significant. And so it was like in that phase, I didn't even know the life that I have now existed. I couldn't have even imagined like living in a different state, getting on an airplane didn't even register as like anything to us.
Yeah.
It was just so crazy.
I want to stop you there for a second. You said your mom worked at a church, so you grew up in a very religious environment?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
It's a super funny paradox. My mom pretty much ran a church, but we were the most unreligious household on the planet. Like, my mom didn't believe in that at all.
She just needed a job.
Yep. Just needed a job. She was like the secretary, so she put out the newsletter, she did the computer work, she did all that. Yeah, she just needed a job. But then again, there was another thing, right? Like you're not aligned with this whatsoever and you're just there for money. So I grew up just constantly being shown like money is scarce. There's never enough. And like, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. You have to find something to make money. Yes. And that's how I grew up. That was my influence. So I lived in that trailer park until I was 20 years old. My mom actually ended up moving out before me.
No.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting.
So you were there by yourself.
I was, yeah. She moved in with her now husband, and she was like, "Hey, I'm moving in with Mark. If you want to come with me." And I was like, "I'm not going to move into another grown man's house. Like, I don't even, I don't."
So you paid the rent there?
Yeah, the rent was $300 a month.
Okay, yeah, wow.
It was just under. It was like 290 something a month to live at that trailer. If that gives you any perspective of how shitty it was like $290 a month.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. So it was cool. And then I ended up moving further into the town where I went to high school, which was Ramona, and that's where I opened up my gym. I dropped out of college, got a job with a guy who was a personal trainer, and he was trying to open a gym, and he was like, "Hey man, you want to be my partner?" I was like, "Holy shit, are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, like you and I will be 50-50 partners. We'll run the gym together. Like I need you to go and like basically put the gym together because I need to stay here and train all my clients." I was like, "Cool, no problem."
This is when you were 21.
This is when I was like 19 and a half.
So you were still living at that trailer park?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. And then he was the one who convinced me to move into the town closer.
You had no money saved, or did you?
No, I didn't.
Why did he come?
What's that?
I said, why did he come to you to the gym? Did you work out? What was the reason for coming to
Yeah,
you?
I was actually getting a fairly good reputation around town for knowing my stuff with personal training and hormones and nutrition and stuff like that. I was getting a pretty good reputation. I think he saw that, and a mutual friend connected us, and he saw the opportunity. So it just made sense, right? Like
Okay,
that's
so
business.
let's backtrack a little there. How did you get into fitness originally? Because I'm assuming you started looking into this all your own, educating yourself while you
Yeah.
were living out there in the trailer park. How were you introduced to fitness in general?
My mom was very overweight, and she actually bought a Wii Fit. Remember the Wii?
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
bought a Wii Fit, and she lost 100 pounds in a year. Actually, it was
Wow,
it was
that's
pretty
crazy.
substantial.
That's
Yeah,
insane
it's
for a
pretty
Wii Fit.
substantial. Yeah,
No
and
diet,
so
no
then
diet or nothing.
no, no, she's
Oh,
still drinking her fucking extra large Diet Dr. Peppers, but she wanted to get us a gym membership. And so we got a gym membership at the local gym, and I had no idea what I was doing, right? I was like sipping my 6-star nutrition creatine that you can buy from Walmart,
yeah.
thinking that was going to get me jacked. And I asked a personal trainer in there one day, I was like, hey, man, how do you use this machine? And he looked at me and he said, it's 175 a session. I was like, you can't just, he literally wasn't doing anything. I was like,
Wow.
you can't just
Yeah.
show me how to use this machine. He's like, no, you got to pay for a session. And I was
Wow.
like, all right, well, like my nature, I was like, all right, fuck you. Then I'm going to learn absolutely everything just to spite you. So I just started doing super deep dive research. I found Greg Plitt. I found all these
Greg
people that
Plitt.
just really,
Yeah.
yep. I had his $10 a month membership, which to me was a massive investment at the time. And, just really started immersing myself in learning and doing research and reading articles and reading books. And I decided, hey, I'm actually getting pretty good at this. And there was one day, this old guy, his name was Frank. This old guy came into the gym. I'd never seen him before. And he was working out and he was just didn't know what the fuck he was doing. So I went up to him. I was like, hey, man, why don't you work out with me? And so I helped him out, gave him form tips. It was just helping him out to help him out. And at the end of the workout, he said thanks, and he went to shake my hand, and there was a $20 bill in his hand that he had like tipped me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was where a big light bulb went off in my head
Yeah.
of, oh,
I can make money.
I could actually make some money doing this. And that was pretty easy. Now, looking at that situation now with more perspective, I can see that it was actually the first time that I had just shown up generous and abundant.
Mm-hmm.
And then money came to me without me even needing it.
You were aligned.
I was aligned.
Yeah.
I was just serving for the sake of serving somebody because I could, and money came to me in that capacity. But I was 19, so I was like, I'm fucking awesome. I'm going to charge people for this and, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, ended up going and working at that guy's gym for a bit. I was personal training for him. And then that was just a whole, he ended up was like, why are you telling everybody you're a partner? Like, you're not my partner, you're my manager. I was like, all right, well, fuck. Guess I should have got a contract signed. So I was like, well, okay, if I'm the manager, what's my salary? He's like, salary? You don't get a salary.
Wait, this is for the gym that you owned with the guy?
That he told me I owned.
Okay.
He told me we were partners, but we never did a contract. He just wanted me to do all the work, basically. If you boil it down, he just wanted me to do all the work.
Yeah.
So he was like, you're my manager. I was like, cool. What's my salary? He was like, salary? I'm not going to pay you a salary. Like, you can keep all the money you make from your clients. I was like, are you going to help me get clients? I was like, no. So
Wow.
I had to run the gym from 6 a.m. to either 10 or 11 p.m., pretty much 5 days a week, and train my personal training clients at the same time. And if I was in a session and somebody came into the front desk, I had to leave my session to go help the person at the front desk while he sat in his office banging his clients. It was crazy, dude.
Wow.
It was nuts.
This is like a little small gym, or was it like an actual?
Yep. I mean, it was like, 2,000 square feet. It was maybe 200, 300 members. It was okay. It was decent sized.
Gotcha.
It was enough. And yeah, at the time I was still living at the trailer park. And before I went all in there, I was working like 5 jobs. I was teaching dance at the time because I was a hip hop instructor. Yeah, I know. I was teaching dance.
I see that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to break it down, dude.
Yeah.
I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. I worked at Kmart. I worked at a vineyard, all these things. And I would stay at my friend Devin's house a lot because it was like a 30-minute drive and I didn't have money for gas. And I would also eat their food. And eventually his mom talked to my mom and was like, hey, like, Nick can't stay here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really hurtful. But I, now I understand. So there was a lot of nights where I slept in my car in the Kmart parking lot. So I didn't have to drive back and then drive into town again and waste gas. And you know, the gym owner at the time, even though he was a piece of shit, he did help me kind of break out of that mindset. He was like, hey man, like just move into town. You'll save money on gas. You can get more, you need 2 more clients a week and you're good. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So I moved into town and just, I mean, long story short, you know, he was just an extremely toxic boss, dude. Like, I mean, it was like if any of the trainers got there before their client, they would sit in their car so they didn't have to go inside the gym because they didn't want him to talk to them. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So I realized, man, you know, majority of people at this gym are actually here for me, and he sucks. So I'm going to start my own. And all the trainers were like, please fucking take me with you. Holy shit. And I just, you know, I opened my mouth to the wrong person and it got back to him. That was it, you know, and he fired us all in a group text on a Sunday night.
So there were multiple trainers there.
Yeah, there were 3.
Okay.
There were 3. And he sent us all a group text on Sunday night. Hey, you're fired. You don't work here anymore. I still have the text. And I had clients at 5 a.m. And that was the first time in my life where I had lost everything in a second.
Yeah.
And it was because I was at the mercy of somebody else. I wasn't at the mercy of myself.
Yeah.
And I remember my girlfriend at the time just was like, she had never seen me like that. Like I couldn't even stand. My whole body was just shutting down.
Yeah.
But my only conversation with myself was, I need to find a place to train my clients. There was no conversation or even reality of, well, I guess I'll go back and get my other jobs. I guess I can go back to the Boys and Girls. I can go back to Kmart. It was like, no, I need to find a place. Like I need to go forward.
Yeah.
And long story short, you know, got a investor who was like, hey, I have 20,000. Can you create a gym for $20,000? In my head, I was like, absolutely fucking not. But then I was like, no problem. So he gave us 20,000 and I created the best gym that I possibly could.
So you just found a guy to loan you $20,000.
He was actually one of the trainer's stepfathers.
Okay.
And so he was like, cool, we'll give you 20 grand. I was like, awesome. We signed the lease and I go to get the check from him. And he's like, actually, I'm not going to give you this check until you make my son-in-law 50% partner. And I was like, you fucking prick.
Yeah.
And, you know, my hands were tied. So we agreed on 55-45 so I could have majority share, and never saw my partner the whole time I was building that gym. So I
wasn't he a trainer?
Yeah, he was.
He didn't work there?
No, he did. He came and did his sessions and stuff, but we wanted to open for members and all these things. And I was like, once we signed that contract, I was like, I'm not opening for members.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let you get 45% of my work. I'm just not going to do it. I'd rather make less money.
Yeah. Cause he wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah. So it was me and one of the other trainers. I got everything delivered curbside, no installation to save money. So I lug all this equipment in and build it myself and all this. And ran that gym for about 3.5 years before deciding to close it down and pursue online coaching full time. And then
at this point, you're what, 24, 25?
I was 24 when I went full time online for myself. And that was scary. I'd closed down the gym. In the span of a week, my income went down like 70% because I wasn't doing the in-person training anymore. And I moved to San Diego. So my living expenses doubled.
So this is what, 2016, 2017, 18?
Yeah, probably right around there.
Okay.
Yep. So literally in a week, lost 70% of my income and my expenses doubled. And I had 2 months of my bank account worth of expenses. So I was like, I either make this work in 2 months or I am literally homeless.
Yeah.
And I put my head down and I fucking grinded. And then at the end of that year, I realized that I had made enough money to buy a house
from online coaching.
And I bought the first house I had ever lived in a year after going full in on myself in San Diego. Yep. And the day I got those keys, I will never forget. I sat in the kitchen and I just cried. And it was like, holy shit. Like I've never lived in a house in my life, you know, like, and it was like trailer park scum who grew up with no dad, who the teacher said he was never going to make it, troublemaker, fighting in school, failing classes. And it's like, I just did that.
Yeah.
And that was fucking incredible, you know, and, hired my assistant coach my first head coach. And then from there, once I actually trusted people in business again, which Chelsea Stewart was like the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life, I'm still convinced. She was my first head coach, and bringing her on and learning to trust somebody again inside of a business, it just like opened up my heart. And I was like, okay, we can do this. And fucking 3 years later, I did like a $4 million a year for myself.
Just from coaching. Well, you had how many assistant coaches at the time?
I think our peak assistant coach was like 7. We had like seven assistant coaches at one time, and a couple of VAs, sales reps.
Yeah, so you had the whole thing.
Yeah, we had a decent sized team, and I had another, I had other streams of income when I did that 4 million. It wasn't solely from coaching, but it was, coaching was multiple 7 figures. It was up there.
Oh, and that's awesome. That's insane.
Yeah. I don't know if you want me to keep going. I can.
Yeah. Well, I want to know. So you moved from, you said it was Ramona to San Diego?
Yep.
And how far is that? I'm not familiar.
It's probably like 45 minutes to an hour.
So when you were living in Ramona, did you already have some online clients? Was that already a thing you were doing?
I had when I first started online coaching, I was checking in via text. They were sending me photos and an update via text, and I had an album for each of them in my iPhone, and I would add all their photos, and it would take, I had 10 clients. It would take me like 5 hours to do check-ins with them.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. They were paying me $200 a month. And that was when I had that conversation to myself of like, I can really do this.
Well, how did you gain so much popularity within the San Diego community so fast? Really, I know you were really big amongst bikini athletes. So how did you really get into that market specifically?
It was
just people connecting with the people down there. Or
honestly, what? It was my first 2 bikini athletes that I ever coached online, which was Kendall and Dez. Dez is probably the single contributor to my success as an online coach, because her and I's relationship, she ended up being my first IFBB pro, her first season with me. We won her whole class, and our relationship and our dynamic, people loved.
Yeah.
And so that really built a lot of momentum for people to want to get onto the team. It really did.
Yeah. And then Kendall, you started coaching Kendall when?
Same time. Yeah.
2017. I wonder if you coached her for that. Did you ever coach her for the Lehigh show in Pennsylvania?
Yep.
I was at that show. I met her 2017. I was 17 years old.
Yep.
I remember
I coached her for that show. Yep, that's correct.
That's awesome. So yeah, I remember because when I first met you, I don't even know if you remember, it was in Vegas, I believe. And because I went down to San Diego, I was supposed to go to Olympia with a bunch of people, ended up in Vegas, and we were at a club in Vegas, and everybody kept talking about you as like all the girls knew you as like the bikini coach. I think it was Brooklyn. I think you lived in Brooklyn at the time.
Yep. Brooklyn was my roommate. I coached Brooklyn as well.
Yeah, and I met you because I was 19, getting into all these clubs, and I couldn't buy any of my own drinks. So I was going around asking everybody to buy me drinks.
Did I buy you a drink?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But yeah, so then how did you transition to where you are now? You know, when did you start getting into the whole, I don't know if I want to say, I feel like when you say spiritual, people get turned off by that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They do.
They spiritual, what the fuck is this guy talking about? What are we getting into now? You know, spirituality. But when did you start getting into all the energetics, you know, what you're doing now, scaling the businesses? How did you transition from coaching? Because you coached up until this past year? Was that your main?
I still have a handful of athletes that I coach. Yeah. I still have a handful of athletes that I'll always coach as long as they want to be with me.
But I'm big. That was your main thing. It's not your main thing right now.
Not even close.
No. So, but that was your main thing up until what, like a year ago?
About a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
I was in I got into a relationship. We moved to Houston together, bought a home, and it was probably the most toxic 2 years of my life. Right. Both of us played our roles. There's no blame on either side, but, you know, like she was cheating on me from the beginning, and I kind of knew, but I didn't know. So like, then I cheated because I felt it, but I didn't. And then like she was sleeping with my best friends, and like, it was just fucking crazy, dude. Like everybody knew, nobody told me. Yeah. And so like, it was just like this massive thing where I just completely fucking lost myself as a man, and
she'll make you go crazy.
Yeah. Broken men do broken things, you know? Yeah. So I did a lot of things I wasn't in alignment with. I was basically at the mercy for any woman who would even look at me in some sort of desire. Like I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know, and so I realized that at the time I was taking more steroids to try to get bigger because was like, well, maybe then I'll have a chance with my girlfriend. Like maybe she'll like be more attracted to me. And then it was like, well, maybe I need to make more money so that she'll love me more. Maybe I need to buy a supercar. Maybe I need to buy that. And so it ended up all crumbling. And it ended with me in the backyard with a gun to my head, ready to just end it because I didn't know who I was anymore. And I felt like I had lost everything.
Yeah.
Didn't do it, obviously. And I realized like once I kind of like woke up and I looked at the energy I had put into everything I had built in my life, I walked away from it. I realized that I had built a multi 7-figure life out of hate. And so that's the thing with money is people think money will change your current situation and it just enhances it. It just amplifies the current state that you're in. So if you're filled with self-hatred, the more money you have, the more energy you have to hate yourself with. So no matter where I looked, no matter what I did, I looked at that supercar and I fucking hated myself. I looked at my money in the bank account and I still hated myself. And it's like we get into these self-perceptive things that something outside of us is going to save us. And we human beings know war way better than they know peace. So there's always going to be another war. And usually people are just at war with themselves.
Yes.
So it was like, I made $1 million. Now I'm a piece of shit because I'm not making 5. Yes. I made 2.5. Well, I'm not making 10. I just bought a fucking Acura NSX. Well, it's not a Lambo. And it's just constant fucking war with myself, right? I look good today, but I don't look good with him. And once I realized that's why I'm so big on energetics. Most people build a life because they hate themselves. And it just reflects back to them their insignificance, right? And it's like a lot of people want to start a business because they just want their dad to say they're proud of them, or they think, it'll make them worthy and they want status. And it's like all stemming from lack. And if lack is there when you build something, it's going to be reflected back to you when it's built, and you're not going to know why. And then you start to lose yourself. So that was kind of my transition when I realized like, man, on paper, I had fucking everything.
Yeah.
And I was miserable and I almost killed myself.
Yeah.
And, just having that conversation of like, man, how many people actually pull the trigger? And that was what really like gave me a sense of urgency to get into what I do now. Was that question?
There's so many things I could touch on there because I relate to a lot of the stuff that you're saying, and it's all very, very true. But at the same time, everything I grew up, I don't want to, like, obviously I'm not going to get into like my whole childhood and stuff, but similar in some aspects. I had a very rough childhood, just all this adversity. But that's basically at the same time, you don't understand it, why you're doing these things, but it got you to where you are. Without that, do you think you would even have this success or be driven to begin with? So it's like, it's a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and like you said, spirituality turns people off. And I think that a lot of times spirituality turns people off because it's like human beings, we have two things, right? We have the soul, we have the ego. When you start actually tapping into the soul, the ego is the first thing that comes up. Hey, you don't want to talk about that. These people are fucking crazy. That's woo woo. That's bullshit. I don't believe in that. You're like, yeah, it's pretty convenient for an ego thing to say, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I kind of just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about right before that? Sorry.
How it's like a double-edged sword. How?
Right. So it's like our soul chose the life that we're living. Like the main hardships that we go through in our lives, especially our childhood, it's like the soul is like, that's like, I'm going to choose this as my upbringing. I'm going to choose parents that don't know how to love me. I'm going to choose losing all of this. I'm going to choose getting beaten by my dad. And that way I'm choosing that because I'm strong enough to overcome that. And then once I actually heal from that, I can go change that in the world. But people get more obsessed with the story of their victimhood.
People identify with it.
Yeah. And it's like, everybody has a fucking story and everybody thinks that their story is special. It's just true. Like I could sit here and just say all the fucked up things that happened to me in my childhood. I could show, so many fucked up things, like things that should have never happened to a child. And it's like, I can tell those stories and those stories can make me stronger. Most people tell their stories in a way that makes them weaker. It's like a justification, right?
Why I'm not where you are.
Yeah. It's like, well, let's look at it like this, right? Like, oh, Nick, why are you the way that you are? Oh, because of something that happened to me 25 years ago.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Right? But it was my mom. Well, it's like your mom. But here's the thing. And this was a realization that I had relatively recently. A lot of people's main thing is like, right, like my parents never loved me and they don't, I was never enough. It's like, cool. I look at my grandma, dude, my grandma was the grumpiest, just angriest old woman you've ever met in your life. We lived in that trailer park. It was like a public campground as well. And we had a public pool. And one summer, my grandma was watching me and she made me, a 10-year-old boy, she made me walk down to the public pool and tell all the kids playing in the pool to be quiet. So everything loud. Dude, I was mortified.
Yeah.
Mortified. But like that was my grandma. She always told you like what was wrong, what you needed to do better, you needed to go change, that looks stupid. So clearly my grandma never experienced love. So she doesn't know how to love somebody. And if she raised my mom, how could my mom ever know how to love if her mom never loved her? And so then how can I blame my mom for never knowing how to love me if she never learned how to love herself because her mom never knew how to love her?
Yeah.
Right. So then we have these people who have these standards for themselves, or we say we have standards for ourselves. And you see this a lot in bodybuilding. People are like, I'm not going to cheat at all this week. And then they cheat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not going to, and then do it. And it's like, so why is, if you set standards for yourself and you don't follow through with them, that's the opposite of self-love.
Yes.
So people go, why do I keep sabotaging? It's like, it's pretty easy, actually. You have been conditioned and taught your whole life how to pick yourself apart and show yourself that you're not worthy of love. You don't even know what love looks like.
So how do you change that?
You have to learn how to love yourself. You have to learn. I mean, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
We are all the best at picking ourselves apart. Like, you know all the shittiest things about yourself.
Yes.
You do.
Yeah.
You could look yourself in a mirror and in 5 seconds, you're like, this fucking sucks. I hate this. That's like, I'm a shitty person. I did that when I was 8. I've done this when I was 15. Like, all the deepest, darkest shit about ourselves. And so we fill ourselves with shame and guilt for the things that nobody else knows. And then we continue to punish ourselves and our actions on a daily basis. And
so you think it's just, there's a way of like coming to terms with yourself. You have to really just dig deep. I remember I was on a call with you. It was one of the calls we did in like the mastermind. And during this time, I'm not sure if you were aware, but I was having like an autoimmune. I was like having an autoimmune reaction. I was allergic to growth hormone, and basically,
yep, I remember that.
Yeah, it would make my skin flare up in hives anytime I would have any sort of adrenaline or emotional like response to anything at all. Like I got up, would get hot, but like any type of stress or anything would cause me to break out in hives, and my body would start freaking out. And you were talking about the same thing that we're essentially talking about now is like, just I don't know how to phrase it essentially, but you said something about think of there's a certain time in your life that you can think of instantly if you just close your eyes that like is the reason why you are the way you are now, or like something that you just have repressed that you don't, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if you know exactly what I'm talking about. You said something and instantly my whole body broke out into hives. I had to get off the call because I started freaking out.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just so deeply repressed that it's just like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like if I talk to every single person here who's listening right now, and I was like, look, that one memory in your life that just fucking hurts the most, the thing that makes you the most angry, the thing that makes you the most sad, the thing that you put most of your blame on. And it's like mine instantly comes up when I say that as well. And it's like, cool, it's there. And that means that it just needs your attention.
Yeah.
Most people feel these things inside of them and they ignore them. And so what are you doing? You're neglecting yourself. Yeah. So you're self-abandoning yourself. And then when it comes time for you to do things that are going to make you feel good, what do? You neglect yourself. You abandon yourself and you don't do it. And you're like, well, I don't understand why I can't stick to anything. And you're like, look at what you do to yourself every day.
It's all just deeply rooted in your subconscious.
All you've known is neglect as a child. And so all you know how to do is self-neglect.
So how do you think this all transfers into being a successful competitor or being a successful business owner? How this affects people, and especially what you've seen, helping people scale their businesses, coaching people. I'm not sure if when you coach athletes, like you've gotten into this deep with them, but
every time,
did you see this affect them? In what aspects do you see this affect? Because people can still get pretty far and repress all this shit, but I feel like eventually everybody hits a wall.
Well, so I don't think I, I'll never sit here and say you can't go to the top out of self-hatred.
Yeah.
Like you could totally hate yourself and be the best in the world. I think the question is at what cost?
You could hate yourself. Yeah. I think you could absolutely be successful in terms of, having this status and materialism and whatnot. But in terms of self-satisfaction, ultimately feeling
Yeah.
fulfilled, because fulfillment is the ultimate success at the end of the day. If you're never fulfilled, you're always going to what is life if you never have any sort of fulfillment?
I think we're all looking for everybody is really searching for the same thing. It's peace.
Yeah.
Like that's really the main thing. If you boil everything down, it's like I want to be at peace with myself. You can have all the trophies, you can have all the money, you can have all the cars. The most important thing is how you feel when you sit with yourself. And if that's fucked up, right? Oh, I got to stay busy. If I don't stay busy, I get stressed out. How interesting.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just need to always be doing things to be productive. It's like, no, you just are afraid of sitting in your own shit. So you don't have peace with yourself. So no shit, you neglect yourself. And I think, so to answer your question, how does this translate over to competitors and business owners and all this?
Yeah, because what you're saying, I think people will take that and they'll think, because I could hear that and I could say, well, if I'm at peace with myself, I'm complacent, right? I'm no longer, even if my drive is coming from all this hatred, I'm mad, I'm angry at the world, that's what's pushing me to be better. So now if I'm just at peace and I accept everything, where does your drive stem from also? So
yeah.
you know
So
what I
it's
mean?
like, for me, it's like, here's the thing. Truthfully, I'm completely at peace with myself. I could realistically never work a day in my life again and be fine. Like I have been retired for like 3 years. And yet I work harder now than I ever have. And it's because of the pride I take in who I am now. And that has only been able to be replenished by self-love and making peace with who I am and what I've done. So it's like you look at people who are 300 pounds overweight. Do you get 300 pounds from self-love? No. You get 300 pounds from self-hatred disguised as, I have a poor relationship with food. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Right? I'm addicted to sugar. No, you're not. Go dump a pound of sugar on the table, and if you dive headfirst into it, then we'll talk about you having an addiction to sugar. But you're not going to do it. So, anyways, how does this translate over to bodybuilding competitors and business owners, et cetera? There is a direct correlation. When I work with people in business, I see people struggle. Like, I can't get past 10K. I can't get past 10K. I can't get past 10K. I've worked one of my current clients. We worked together for 2 years, and everything finally clicked for her 2 months ago. Just I saw the switch go off.
What was it?
The what?
What was it?
It was the switch of like showing up authentically, forgiving herself for her past, making peace with the things that she's done, understanding that she's not identified with that version of herself that she used to be. And when we remove the shame, when we remove the guilt, when we remove the stories, and we're able to say like, yeah, I did what I did, but that's not who I am. Right. I'm not what I've done. I'm what I've overcome. You start showing up differently. There's a different energetic signature, and that attracts things. Your energy attracts everything around you. Right. And so people are like, oh, I can never catch a break. The worst thing always happens to me. And then the worst thing keeps happening. They're like, see, I told you. And you're like, do you not realize that if you just directed that into good things, the same thing would happen? And, oh, I don't believe in that shit.
Yeah.
You're literally doing it. What do you mean you don't believe in it? Like, hey, you can not believe it all you want. You're still doing it, just in a way that's not advantageous for you. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to bitch and complain about everything that you don't have, like, why don't you just bitch and complain about everything you do have and just see what happens? Try just redirecting it. And so she really opened up this last month in May. She did $100,000 more than she did the month before.
What does she do?
She's a fitness coach.
Oof.
$100,000 more this month than she did last month. Only difference, how she's showing up. Dead ass. The only difference is how she's showing up as herself. And that is why energy, who we are, what we see ourselves as, matters, because you'll never outperform the self-image that you have for yourself.
So you think this even matters? Because let's say she's doing the same work, right? She's showing up every day. She's putting in the hour. She's working her job as a coach, right? But now she has this different outlook on like this different perspective that changes everything.
A different perspective gives you a different presence. And presence is the precursor for everything that you need in life. Most people aren't present at all. They're depressed about what happened in their past, and they're anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow, and there's no presence. And they wonder why they're not getting what they want to get today. and you go, hey, maybe you should actually start trying to heal. No, 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 that's bullshit, foo-foo stuff. Like, I don't have time for that.
Well, even
Okay.
being, yeah, well, even being present isn't, I don't think it's the end all be all cure. I don't know what you think, but when I was in jail when I was 18,
Mhm.
and I was given a book, and this is literally, I had the only book I've ever read. I've posted it multiple times because it changed my life. It's called The Power of Now. Have you
Mm.
read the book?
Is that Eckhart Tolle?
Yeah, it's Eckhart Tolle, and it talks about basically just separating yourself from the understanding the ego. This is when I was introduced to all of this stuff because I was in jail.
Hmm.
I was dating a girl. She was cheating on me. I have no access to the outside world. I was fucking freaking out every day. I was losing my mind, and I was reading this book, and it basically just taught me how to be present, how to like be. It's, I guess, like you could say you can meditate doing anything, right? Just when I would go out and walk in the yard and like just like listen to like the leaves and just like try to be present, like nothing in the future, nothing in the past matters, but it calms you down
Hmm.
temporarily, right? And that helped me deal with that whole situation, helped me deal with a lot of situations in my life with relationships, all arguments I get into, like everything. It teaches me how to not stress in the moment. But at the end of the day, that only gets you so far, right? It's not curing the fact that you might still be identifying with the past to some extent. Do you know what I mean? Because you could do that in the moment and I could be present, I could fix it all, but does it really fix a root issue?
Yeah, no, not even close.
Yeah.
Like, root issues, like it's yard work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't do yard work in a button up, right? You put on clothes that you're going to sweat in because you know it's hard work. You're going to be in the sun. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be shitty. Probably going to get stung by a bee, right? You're going to get fucking splinters. Like, it's work. And
Yeah.
most people shy away from the work, and that's why they never get the result. You know, people, and you see this in bodybuilding all the time. This is why it's so important. People chase the end goal because they think the end goal will fix what they're running from. So
Mm-hmm.
these people prep, when people are on prep, they're a completely different person. They're locked in, they feel amazing. People are praising them on social media, so they're getting all these dopamine hits, and then they win the trophy. And then what happens? They gain 40 pounds.
Yeah.
They get depressed. Bodybuilding's so unhealthy. Oh, I fucked up my
Mm-hmm.
hormones. My coach sucks. Like, really? Did your coach shove 15 taquitos and 4 margaritas down your fucking mouth? No,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't. And so it's like, why is there this massive emotional reaction after you've won the thing that you're trying to win? It's because you think the trophy is going to solve everything that's going on inside of you.
Yeah.
And so we get the trophy. We go, oh my God, I did it. Why don't I feel any different? Well, now I'm depressed. So what am I going to turn to? I'm going to turn to food. I'm going to turn to this. I don't want to show up for myself anymore because now there's something wrong with me. I don't get it. I'm self-sabotaging. It's a perpetual cycle. And all we're doing is recreating the suffering that we had as a child. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would make sense that you need, like, here's the question that I've asked myself that has really just fucked me up in so many different ways. I look at it from both ways. I look at my older self and I also look at my younger self, right? It's like, if I were to see my 50-year-old self and he were to look at what I'm doing right now, what would he say? Would he be like, yeah, dude, like, that's, good job, son. Like, that's what we need to be seeing. Or would he be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're being a little bitch right now, right? Or like, you're not doing
Yeah.
something that aligns. Like, like, come on, get over that. Now, paradoxically, my life right now, if I looked at my 8-year-old self, if he was standing in front of me and I had to explain to him exactly what our life was going to look like right now, how would he feel? So imagine a bodybuilder looking at hers or her 8-year-old self and saying, like, hey, buddy, I know right now you're like super present. You're having a lot of fun in life. Like, you love yourself and everything's joy. But in 20 years, you're actually going to hate yourself every time you look in the mirror. Every time you walk past the freezer, you're going to fight yourself and you're probably going to binge eat and you're going to talk shitty about yourself and you're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to be chasing something external and you're never going to really find happiness anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck that, dude.
Yeah. No.
That would, like, my 8-year-old self would look at me and be like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why would we do that? That doesn't sound fun at all. Like, why would we do that? And I think we really lose sight of that
Mm-hmm.
as we get older. And like, that question I always ground myself in, and it fucks you up. It really makes you look at yourself.
I think you get caught up in a lot of shit that I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but you let things affect you to such an extent where it just ruins. It can just ruin your life. And How do you think this applies to? I don't even know what you keep saying. You work on it, right? You work on fixing these issues, getting down to the
Mhm.
root issue. How exactly do you approach that? Are you talking about like going to actual therapy? Are you talking about just like this daily task that you do?
So this might get me a lot of slack. Actually, your audience is pretty chill, so I doubt it. But usually this perspective on therapy gets me a lot of grief. I think therapy, like, hey, cool. If you're really struggling and you need to go see somebody ASAP, awesome, go to therapy. I don't think that therapists themselves are broken. I think our healthcare system is broken. And therapy, it is very advantageous for a therapist to keep you coming back for sessions because that's how they get paid.
It's a lot
Right.
of
And
money
at
too.
the
It's a lot of fucking money.
but at the end of the day, if I'm a therapist and you and I sit down and talk and you're going through something, it is not in my best interest to give you that breakthrough in the first session. It's in my best interest to wait till the eighth session
Mm-hmm.
because I'll make more money. And people, oh, we're not like that. It's like everybody cares about themselves more than anybody else. Like you just do. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to hear it, And some of them are great, don't get me wrong, but that's my immediate issue with therapy is like it's a business model that is not in favor of the person actually getting the breakthroughs as fast as possible. I honestly, like, mentors change my life more than anything.
Yeah.
Right. Like having somebody, because like, and that's kind of what I do for people, right? When I work with entrepreneurs and they have like this self-sabotage because their, uncle raped them when they were 8 or whatever, right? You're like, okay, cool. Let's sit down for like a 3-hour session and we just fucking rip that root out right away. So I'm like, I need you to understand this, process it, get through it so that we can start doing the other things.
Mm. Yeah.
So I think, asking for help is number one. Obviously, it's going to be super huge. Number two is actually just sitting and not running for once in your life. That changed my whole life, dude. When everything went down in Houston and I moved back to San Diego, I spent 3 months. 3 months. I didn't push my business forward. I didn't really post on social media. I literally sat with myself. I got the bare minimum work I needed to get done for the day. And then I would go to the beach and I would sit on the sunset and I would meditate and I would journal. I would fucking cry. I would just re-regulate my nervous system and I would actually sit with myself and let everything from my past catch up. So I think too many times people convince themselves like, I got to keep going. Like they're running towards success, but actually you're just running from yourself. So I think you actually have to stop running in order for things to catch up for you so you can actually process them. Most important thing.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people just have such trouble like coming to terms with what the actual issue, especially nowadays, because we have the whole I don't want to say like toxic masculinity because I am very like I masculine, right? Like I and have nothing against masculinity and that whole aspect, but it's just the whole aspect of what you feel no matter what. It doesn't I don't want to say it doesn't it they say it doesn't matter, which I guess like in an aspect, like you still have to get shit done, right? So I'm not saying like your emotions should supersede you fucking getting shit done, but it's also like whatever is going on inside of you, it just doesn't matter. I'm not ever gonna let it affect me. It's gonna be repressed forever and ever. And like, I feel like most people would try to do what you just did and would never be able to come to terms with it. Do you know what I mean?
I think, well, plant medicines also can help a ton here, but it's like eventually, you look at everything that continues to keep happening to you in your life and you realize that there's one common denominator and it's you eventually. And when that time comes, when you finally have been through enough pain, you're like, oh, why does, every person I'm with keeps doing the same thing? You're like, wow, that's super interesting. You're on 8, you're in your 8th partner and they've all done the exact same thing. Crazy. Like, what's the, you've had 5 businesses and they've all failed the exact same way. Crazy. You've lost weight 12 times and gained it back the exact same way. Crazy. What's the common denominator? It's you. So
Yeah.
what's the thing that you're not paying attention to? It's probably worth paying attention to. And here's the thing: deep down, deep down, it's there. The biggest fallacy, or I don't even know if fallacy is the right word. The biggest misconception we have as humans is that our answer lies somewhere outside of us. Everything that you actually, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like oh, I have no idea. I don't know why. It's like, well, instead of just saying I don't know why, figure it out. Like, actually just sit with yourself, meditate. Oh, I can't meditate. My mind goes too fast. Exactly. That's why you should sit down and meditate. You should
Yeah.
just sit and retrain your body, because the body is the unconscious mind, right? We have our conscious mind, we have our subconscious mind, and we have the unconscious mind. And your body is the representation of the unconscious mind. It does things that you do not have to think about. You drive to the gym, you could zone out the whole time. And all of a sudden you get to the gym, you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that I was here. You brush your teeth, you get in the shower, you rub the soap on the same hand, you wash the same armpit first, you get your towel, you dry your same shoulder off first. It becomes repetitive, it becomes unconscious. So if your unconscious mind has been programmed and preconditioned to always be in a constant state of stress, well, now it doesn't matter what you do. You go to close your mind, like, I'm gonna meditate for 15 minutes. And the unconscious mind is like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing? It's 8 o'clock. You're supposed to be caffeinating yourself and stressing out about tomorrow already.
Yeah.
And we misconstrue that. The body now thinks it's the mind, and the mind thinks that it's helpless. We go, I don't understand why I can't do this. So for an illustration, you ever ridden a horse?
No, I have not.
Okay, but you know what riding a horse looks like, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to get on a horse right now, in that illustration, I am now the mind, and the horse is now the body, the unconscious mind. And if I want to go walk the horse straight and it starts veering over to the right, I'm going to grab the reins, I'm going to pull it back to the middle, and I'm going to wait. And when it listens, all right, cool, I'm going to walk forward. If it goes to veer to the right, I'm going to grab the reins, I'm going to pull it back to the middle, and I'm going to wait. And if I do that enough times, eventually the horse will surrender, and it will understand, okay, I'm in charge. Our bodies are the same thing. So when we sit down to meditate and the body's going, you need to get up, you need to do all these things, you need to do that, it still happens to me, and I recognize it and I stop it. I say, no, pull it back and wait. And you do that enough times, the body submits and you're back in control.
So let me ask you, what do you think about, how do you feel about like those morning routines? Do you get up and you meditate every morning? Is this something that you think is very beneficial for individuals, like having that set in stone routine?
Yeah. I have gone back and forth on this through my years. Honestly, I went through a point where it was non-negotiable. Then I went through a point where I was like, if you need to start your day with a morning routine, then like if you can't get up and just get to work, there's an issue. And I do a morning routine now. Because here's the thing, I can get up and go straight to work and I can get my day done, but I'm off.
What is your morning routine?
My morning routine's not that long, 15, 20 minutes max. I start with an embodiment practice, takes about 3 to 5 minutes. Then I go into just a quick breath work just to oxygenate my body. Then I go into about a 15-minute meditation where I just sit and I kind of visualize what I want my life to look like. And I allow myself to feel gratitude for that life. And you can get as specific as possible with this. I see the place I want to live. I see the car I'm going to drive. I see the money that we're making. I see the physique I have, the people that I'm with. And I allow myself to actually feel the emotions attached with that outcome. And so when I can ground myself in that first thing in the morning, well, my body's already felt as if that experience has already happened.
Would you consider that manifesting? Because I know people hate that.
Yeah, I mean that is the definition of manifest. Here's the thing: I think manifesting, kind of like spirituality. People think if you say, "Hey, manifest your dreams," it's like, "Hey, go sit on the couch, shove a crystal up your ass, and rub essential oils on your nipples, and everything's going to come your way." And like that's just not really how it works.
Just putting yourself in the right mindset.
Well, manifestation, like if my unconscious body, right, and my subconscious mind carries out commands all day without me being consciously aware of it, I'm already manifesting my reality all day, right? If you constantly can't stop thinking about scarcity and not having business, like if your life isn't where you want it to be right now and you are keeping up with the Kardashians, there's your problem, right? And so you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix and you're like, oh, I really should be getting up and doing these things. And I don't understand why I'm not. Oh, I just lost my job. Why does all of this just keep randomly happening to me? And it's like, well, that's kind of the definition of manifesting. So me, I'll sit and I'll tell you straight up. I've done public speaking before and I've kind of been called to get in a little bit more to it. So I hired a mentor and all this stuff. And I've actually been visualizing like me on stage speaking. And Not kidding, dude. 2 days ago, I had somebody call me. Hey, man, we're doing a massive event in December and we want somebody to host like a breakout room on stage. Like, would you be cool to come and do it? And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then here I could say the same thing. Well, I don't understand how this just keeps happening to me. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation. It's just two different trains of thought. So it's like, dude, people can say, I don't fucking believe in that shit all day long, and then just keep putting all their energy into the negatives and the lack and the things that they don't have. My life, I say the same thing they do. Why does this keep happening? I can't believe it. It's like it never stops, but it's blessings.
That's a good point, because let's say even if that's a coincidence, it's not even what you're talking about, right? It's like, the way I see it is, you would rather put your energy into that than the opposing, which is, this is bullshit, this is not possible. Just feed into all that negativity, because what you see from those people is all they get back is a life of negativity. That's all
100%.
they ever get back. They hate on the successful people, this guy's full of shit, don't buy his course, whatever.
He's a scam artist.
Yeah, everybody's a scam artist, but those people just live a life of misery, and all they put out is negativity. And I wonder why. But then the guys who say shit like you're saying, even if it's a fucking coincidence, it seems to do you a lot better having that mentality.
The more I hype myself and my life up, the more coincidences I have. Right? Like, that's it. And paradoxically, the worse I feel about myself, the more negative coincidences I have. So if, again, these people are sitting here that that's not fucking true, blah, 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 blah. Humor me. Your life already sucks. So what's the point? Like, you're already lying to yourself. Mm-hmm. You lie to yourself every single fucking day. So why not lie to yourself in a way that could potentially be advantageous? Mm-hmm. Well, that's not worth it. Cool. Then you've answered the question that your life is actually exactly what you want it to look like.
Yeah. There's no hope. This is reality. This is, I wasn't given a trust fund. I have to live my life this way. I wasn't given all the opportunities.
Dude, if there's anybody who should not be where they are right now, it's me. Statistically, you want to like talk statistics? I'm literally on the same level as like the poverty, minorities that grow up in the ghetto. Same statistics. Yeah. Trailer park, mom, everybody around, single mom, everybody around me did drugs, no father in the home, fighting in school, failing. Like, statistically, I should have been a complete fuck up. In some ways I still am, but
I'm the same way. My parents grew up in a fucking basement, $400 a month rent. I dropped out of high school. I went to jail. Like, I shouldn't be where I am statistically, I guess. But I don't think anybody is doomed to what they grew up in.
And people are doomed to their story.
Yes.
Above all else, you can be a bodybuilder, you can be a business owner, you can be a stripper, you can be whatever you want. Above all else, human beings are storytellers. And we have this incredibly powerful ability to validify with our reality any story we choose to tell ourselves.
Yes.
Most people just tell a story of their victimhood. So I have seen direct correlations. All of the competitors on my team who win their shows have easy preps, body responds perfectly, literally perfectly, like easiest prep ever. They're all telling themselves completely different stories than the ones who are constantly picking themselves apart, telling them how they're not going to work. I'm not going to be ready. There's not enough time. I'm so fat. They're looking up their competition to psych themselves out. It's like they're actively searching for ways to stress themselves out. Why do you think that is? You don't think you're worthy of a win. So you're going to do everything in your power to self-sabotage.
You have to believe that you are going to win. I think a great example of this is really Nick Walker. I talked about this with him on the last podcast. I saw another podcast that was talking about this. And obviously, I don't think he's like into energetics and all the spirituality stuff, but he does the stuff we're talking about regardless, without even like knowing, the whole concepts behind it. But he talks about, how he needs to be present, how he knows that like his happiness isn't going to come from a trophy. It's, him focusing on being fulfilled with his life. He's in a relationship now, all this stuff, how this helped him even move forward and do better now with competing, and how he just always constantly says that he's going to win the Olympia. He always says that he has that ingrained in his mind, and he just doesn't stress about all the shit people say. He's not focused on the past, all the shit that happened to him. And obviously you see where he's at, how far he's gone. And I don't know what the other guys say, because they don't really talk that much, but from how I see him talk, I just feel like based off of that mentality alone, I truly believe even regardless of the other competitors, I believe he will win an Olympia at some point or another just because of that mentality he has.
So let's dive into that for a second, because what you're saying is he's getting past the environment, the mind, and time.
Yes.
So when you can get, and this is where manifesting really happens. He's manifesting his Olympia win right now, and he will get it. There's not a doubt in my mind either he will get it, because he's saying, I don't care what anybody says, your environment.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care how I feel, the body, and I don't care how long it takes, time.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to have in my life.
Yeah.
But most people stress about the time, how they feel, and what everybody says.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're focused on those three things that you need to surpass in order to get what you want, you're never going to get what you want.
I think it's social media also makes it a lot harder to deal with that, though, especially nowadays as you grow. Like, I'm sure even you deal with it for some reason, because you're not a huge influencer, but you have a pretty you have a good community of people who know
Hit me where it hurts, dude.
People people seem to be very invested into your personal life for some reason. I see.
Yeah.
Does that bother you?
It has. I mean, it used to. And I mean, here's the thing, dude. I'm very aware that, you know, me talking about the things that I talk about, it can be really triggering to people, right? If I sit here and, you know, like people I've worked with have had really gnarly traumas that I've helped them overcome. And so, you know, you share a story. There was, you know, one girl that I helped as a business owner, I helped her like process a rape, and it was really intense. And she put a video testimony out and I posted it, and then fucking Reddit, right? Oh my God, Nick thinks he's a therapist. He's so fucking dangerous. He's a scam artist doing all these things. He should be in jail. And
you help somebody.
You know, yeah, it's like, oh my God, where are your credentials? Like, how do you feel? How could you even, you know, you're a shitty human for even thinking to help somebody like that? I'm like, in what world do I need to pay a piece of paper that says you need to have a piece of paper in order to help somebody who comes to you for help?
Yeah.
Like we are so far, we have lost so much sight of what it means to be human. It's actually terrifying, Sebastian.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, you know, Reddit and all, I mean, yeah, they fucking love me, dude. Jesus Christ. And
yeah, they're bad.
I really do think, and not to, you know, put her on blast, it's just the truth, but I really do think that a large part of that had to come with my last relationship and her kind of like publicly blasting me after our breakup to kind of like get the heat off of her. And I never said anything. I was like, I don't need to ruin her life. So they all hate me even more now because of that. But yeah, it used to bother me a lot. But then I also realized, dude, nobody wants to be that way.
Yeah.
Like no. they don't want to be the person. Like, think about how much real estate I have in their minds, and I've never met them. I don't even know you exist. And when I do anything in my life, you have to run to a website anonymously and
it's
talk
crazy
about me.
Yeah, I've had people.
It's just, I genuinely feel bad for them.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a little bit easier to bear, but it's obviously never easy when people throw stones at you.
Yeah, no, because my thing is, I get people all this because fucking, I don't even know if you're on TikTok. TikTok's bad, right? And my thing is, to have peace of mind, I can't entertain half this shit. So what I do immediately is if I see something, the best thing for me to do is block it. It's I don't even want to see it. This person obviously doesn't want to learn or like doesn't care to gain any insight from my information. They're never going to be a client. They're obviously not here for any other reason but to say some bullshit. So they block. And I'll see so many of these people go on Reddit, go write articles, you know, they'll post screenshots. Oh, this guy blocked like 5 posts back to back, just, you know, taking over this person cannot be a happy human being. They're so upset that they came onto my account, said something, then they get blocked, and now it's the end of the world. Now they're just gonna fucking try to tear me apart on Reddit.
It really does. Like, here's the thing. Come at me all you want, right? I can take it. You're not going to say anything about me that I have not already said to myself, and worse. You're just not going to. But what really upsets me is the amount of incredibly intelligent entrepreneurs who do not put themselves out there and like hide their gifts because they are afraid of people like that, because they're so rampant now. Yeah. So I genuinely do think that if anybody listening to this is one of those people, like, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I think like that's cool, and you also can change. And I think you should. I really do. Like, I don't use the word should a lot, but like, if you are doing that, you should be ashamed of yourself, and you should definitely stop.
If
Like,
they are the person who's writing this shit, or the people who are
yeah,
afraid, the
yeah,
people who are
yeah,
afraid, the
yeah.
people
No,
writing the shit. Yeah.
if you're a Redditor, I really do think you should be ashamed of yourself. Like,
Yeah.
it's, and I've seen, people that I've associated with in the space, like, just completely have debilitated mental health because of how nasty people can be.
Well, what do you think that stems from? I don't, because part of me also thinks like it's obviously they're so just encompassed by their fucking ego, but I also feel like a lot of it is literally just like an IQ thing, like the way that these people interact. Like I feel like I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I feel like we have like this like huge low IQ epidemic where like people cannot like critically think about anything and just impulsively act online and just
Well,
are fucking
it's
rampant.
it's the addictive echo chamber. It's, hey, this person is saying something that is outside of, like, if you're saying something that doesn't align with my complete view of reality, it's a threat to me, and so therefore I need to make you feel like shit so that you change it, because I do not have the capacity in my nervous system to let two truths exist at once. Right? I say money's super easy to make. People are like, Nick's a fucking scam artist because he says money's easy to make.
Oh my
Money's
God,
so
yeah.
hard to make. Right? I'm like, well, that's your reality. Cool. Because like, I'll agree with them. Right? They're like, you're a scam artist. I'm like, maybe. I might be.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure in someone's eye somewhere, I scam them. I'm sure. Crazy they never talked to me about it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that reality exists somewhere, and that's okay, because I know that I am not a scam artist. So like, I can allow somebody else's reality to not be aligned with the reality I have for myself. Now, that doesn't mean that I just, treat everybody however the fuck I see fit, right? You obviously,
Yeah.
there's duality to everything. But I think when it comes to these Redditors and people like that, like, every hero's journey, there are villains.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny
Like,
you call them villains. Yeah.
yeah, but there's always people who discount the hero, who try to tear the hero down, who try to convince him that he's stupid. Right? It's in every movie, every story that's ever been told. So
And it's always, go ahead.
I was going to say, most people let characters that are meant to play a role in the story stop the story.
Yeah. Well, let's
And
say
you can't do that.
it's always, and I don't want to say this in a way that like you're better than other people, but what I've noticed is every single time, and this happens, it happens to me dozens every day, because it's just TikTok's fucking filled with these people. And I'll sometimes I look, and it's never anybody that's above you. It's never anybody that's more successful in business, anybody that's been training as long. It's always somebody who's brand new to training or just works a 9 to 5. It's somebody who in life, I feel like they would see themselves like on a scale. I don't want to say below you because I don't want to sound like an asshole, but you know exactly what I'm saying. It's never I've never been come at by somebody who's like an actual successful bodybuilder or business owner ever. I've never,
right.
It just has never happened. So these people see you as some sort of threat, essentially, whether or not they're able to accept that.
Well, it's a mirror, is
Yeah.
what it is. Right. Remember, your triggers are your mirrors. So anytime somebody looks at you and gets upset, it's because they're seeing a version of them reflected back to themselves that they're unhappy with. So they see somebody like you who's young, successful, awesome physique. That's not them. And that reflects back to them, and that makes them feel really upset with themselves. And when somebody else is hurt, they want to hurt other people. And that's their way, right? Because like, again, I know people, like, don't get me wrong, there are substantially more people that love me and that I have done very well with than people who hate me on Reddit. So that's why Reddit doesn't really bother me. But when I can see that the people on Reddit are probably just in situations in their lives that they do not want to be in, and they see me in positions that they want to be in, and it's really easy to say, well, he's a fucking scam artist, right? He has everything that I want, so therefore he must be doing something wrong. Like, he must be insincere. And with just from like a money aspect of things, right? We tend to think people who are wealthy are corrupt.
Yeah.
Oh, he has a lot of money, he's corrupt, he's a narcissist. So paradoxically, because we're human beings and we work off identities, if we've painted the picture of people that are wealthy as narcissists, well, then we are already putting ourselves in a position to not make ourselves wealthy because we don't want to be a narcissist.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that that's actually what's going on in your subconscious mind. So when people are talking shit about you for being shredded, buff, or successful, they're by nature actually keeping themselves from achieving that as well, because they're putting a negative connotation around it.
What's funny you say that, because some people will literally admit to that. And I've seen that on other posts. You'll see guys like Grant Cardone or whatever talk about, he says the thing, he says that, say, I don't know sure if you've seen this video where he says, if you're not making 400 grand a year, you should be ashamed of yourself. Have you ever seen that video?
Here's the thing. I actually don't agree.
Okay, but let me explain.
Yeah. I've seen the video. I'll touch on it after.
So he says that, but I understand where he's coming from. Essentially, I don't know if he's being like actually serious. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, you're a fucking failure. I think it's more so like kind of like meant as like motivational to like do better and not settle.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. But you'll see people in the comments be like, I don't ever want to make that much money. This is fucking this, that. And it's like, that's bullshit. Yeah. That's bullshit. Like, I'm fine with I make 50K. I have four kids. I live perfectly fine. It's like, you're coping. Like, the fact that you even came on here to comment that, like, what, if you are so comfortable, like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Yep. If you were content and peaceful with yourself, you wouldn't feel a need to react, period. Yeah. But like, let's look at this from a, and he's like, you said you don't want anybody to be below you because you don't want to sound like an asshole. Here's the thing is, the truth is very sensational, which means when you say the really hard truth, people feel something in their body, and they usually don't know what to do with that energy, so they lash out. But the truth is, there are hierarchies in society. There are hierarchies in every single species, and this concept is hundreds of millions of years old. The quote unquote, the real alpha male, not the fucking douchebag, but the real alpha male is the man who continues to keep winning. He perceives a win every single day for himself. And when you win, your posture changes. You show up differently. You start to present yourself as a winner, which means people start to see you as a winner. They treat you like a winner. You get compensated as a winner. You win more. Yeah. Same thing happens with the loser. You feel like a loser. You show up as a loser. You get treated like a loser. You get compensated. So now we have people who are in extreme poverty and people who are in extreme wealth. And the people who are in extreme poverty are going, this is so unfair. The worst things always happen to me. Like, they have all the money. They're so stingy. It's like, no, they just win more than you. Mm-hmm. And what a win and a loss is self-perception, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, I go to the gym. I hit a fucking, dude, I started hitting, because I'm natty now. I started doing the hundreds again for reps. I'm like, I'm the fucking man today. Yeah. I'm the man. That's my win for today. Yeah. And so I walk around the rest of the day feeling like a fucking winner. Yeah. Most people take their wins and turn them into losses. Right? Like I said, point. I made 100K this year. And then they look at someone else. They're like, fuck, dude, I only made 100K. They made 200. I'm a shitty. Like, what do you mean? You just had this massive win and you immediately turn it into a loss. Yeah. That's one of the number one things in bodybuilding that keeps people back. Yeah, I feel like that definitely applies to both business and bodybuilding, because I'm definitely like that sometimes as well. If I ever have a month where I start to make a little bit less, right? Let's say we go from X amount, couple less K, whatever. I go into panic mode. I'm a fucking failure. Like, this is like not good. Like, I literally will start. Go find another job. Yep. Yeah. It's fucking. I don't go that far, but it's like, it's still like, I don't want to. It's like shitty because, like, it's like I don't want to. The thing is with me is like I don't ever want to be comfortable. So when I do that, it's like I'm not moving forward. If I'm not moving forward, I'm moving backwards. But in all reality, like, I turn it into something much worse than it really is, right? Like, for myself, what it becomes mentally as to how I perceive it. It's just because I don't know, it goes back to what you're saying, it's not necessarily that it's a win because I've had months that are better, but because it's not as good as the previous month, I turn it into such a huge mental loss. Yeah. Yep. That's humans. And that's why we have hierarchy. That's why we have hierarchies in society. The higher you up, the better you have, more access to better quality of food, better healthcare, better livelihood. You're less stressed, right? The lower on the hierarchy, you've got lower quality food, lower housing, more stress. You're more susceptible to cancer, everything. Dude, I think a lot of this comes back to being able to how you handle stress. Yeah. Stress is everything. Yeah, well, if people aren't taking time, like I said, that's why I do my morning routine, because that's my chance to regulate my nervous system and take control over it in the morning. Let me ask you this. I don't know how you're going to feel about answering this because it's kind of controversial, but I'm an open book.
how do you feel about people that use antidepressants? Do you think that's necessary? Do you think clinical depression to the point where medication is necessary is really a thing, or do you think everybody could solve it within like the things we're talking about? So I know a lot of people
Let's
can.
I'm gonna ask the question like this. In what other countries, or let's look at countries that aren't like very high built, right? Like if you go to, let's just say like Thailand or something. Is Thailand a country? I don't even know. I'm not a fucking geographer.
I think so.
But you go to
Yeah.
Thailand, right? Is there depression there?
I don't know.
Not really. Do they have antidepressants, stuff like that? Or go to Mexico. It's like you look at all these places where drugs have not been monetized and the need for them is significantly lower. And I find that interesting. So you look at the United States of America, which is the most heavily medicated, most heavily obese, most heavily addicted in the world. And yet people sit here and fight how depression meds are extremely necessary. And I think culture shifts are extremely necessary. So you have people who are eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast, getting no sunlight, listening to music that talks about sex, drugs, hating yourself, killing your friends, whatever it is, right? You're going out to parties, you're staying up too late, you're drinking alcohol, you're pumping yourself full of poison all day, every day, and you're wondering why you feel that way. It's not, and then it's like, hey, maybe change your lifestyle. How dare you say I need to change my lifestyle? I have something wrong with me, right? I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. Really? Because that study was actually overruled a couple of years ago. I have the link. Yeah, I have the link to the study on my phone. I love sending that one in my DMs. Right? Well, I don't produce enough serotonin in my brain. That's crazy. 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut.
Yep.
No, it's not. Yeah, it is. So it'd make a lot of sense that your diet actually has a pretty decent hold on here. Now, here's the thing. When somebody is extremely deep in a hole of depression, antidepressant medications can be a ladder to help them climb out of that hole and save their life. So I do think that in some cases it is necessary, 100%. But if we look at what the word depressed means, if we look at depressed, what your soul is saying is that it needs deep rest from a character you're trying to play. So most people are depressed because they're being somebody that they're not. They're in a situation that they shouldn't be in, and they're not showing up truly as themselves. So they're playing a character. And the soul is slowly dying. It's like, hey, this isn't who I'm supposed to be. Can we stop playing this? There's this internal conflict and turmoil. And then you start to really lose energy. Then you start eating like shit. And then you start being upset with yourself. You start shaming yourself and guilting yourself. Can't get anything done. I'm so depressed. And then when we finally get diagnosed, well, now I have something that I can believe even more, because we believe a diagnosis more than anything.
Yep.
Oh, I'm diagnosed depressed, so therefore I cannot change. Yep. It's my diagnosis. The doctor told me so. It's like, well, doctors obviously also diagnose people as obese. Doesn't mean that you can't change it. People diagnose you with cancer. Doesn't mean you can't beat it.
Yeah, because I don't think there's any research. I mean, I might be very ignorant to this topic, but I don't, as far as I know, there's not any research in depression, like clinical depression, where it's like you just can't produce serotonin. Like you're just doomed to this, and there's no way of reversing it.
There was a study, and they linked lower levels of serotonin in the brain to depression, right? And here's the thing: science is always changing.
Yes.
Right. So people are like, how dare you talk about this before you know the truth? It's like literally nothing that we've ever said as humans has stayed the same. It always changes and evolves. Right. Like 20 years ago, it was like, do not eat dietary fat. It is awful for you. Don't you dare. If you eat dietary fat, you're going to get fat. And now it's like, eat fucking all the fat that you can and don't eat carbs. Don't eat vegetables. Vegetables actually kill you now. Right. So it's like, it's always changing, and people will just always turn to the one that causes the most conflict, because we love war.
Yes.
I think
people would argue the thing about like third world countries is just that they might not have the studies there. And if there are depressed people there, like they don't really, they just don't have the information on it. But at the end of the day,
it's a good argument.
What I've seen there, because I've been to Mexico very briefly. Again, this is like just an ignorant viewpoint, but the people there, is where I went, live in fucking poverty. Like it's compared to America,
Yep.
it's like a fucking shithole.
Yep.
The people are there outside working, getting shit done, moving around. They have a smile on their face. Like maybe they're depressed when they go home. I don't know, but they seem like they have way more reasons to be fucking depressed than people in America. Yet they are still out
Well,
there, fucking. This is. I don't know. You know what I'm getting at
there's
here?
a completely different energy in Mexico. There is. Mexico is very there's a very feminine energy to it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's girly, right? Feminine is very flowy, it's very open, it's very expansive. Um, United States is very hyper masculine. It's very go, go, go. You need to get things done. If you're not doing enough, you're a piece of shit. Compare yourself to other people. Here's social media, right? And it's like, dude, there are like, we eat foods that other countries have banned because of how bad they are for you. Like, that Australia banned Pop Tarts. They were like, you cannot eat Pop Tarts because they are fucking
I know
awful.
other
You know how many
countries
people
like
eat Pop Tarts?
ban certain fucking ingredients that we use in our food. Like the same product will be different over there.
Yeah. And we wonder why. And like, I know people don't want to go down a conspiracy rabbit hole, but if I were somebody running a country and I was a piece of shit, you know what I would do? I would do nothing but create food that makes people mentally and physically sick. And then I would create a business to give them pills or other treatments that cure those things so that I just had lifelong recurring customers.
I mean, it's really the greatest fucking business ever. Like the whole country, the way it operates. Like
Yeah.
let's make people sick, keep them sicker. Here's the fucking cure. There's more money off of this. Like it's just a never ending cycle of how they can make trillions of fucking dollars in every which way.
There's no money in curing, there's money in treating.
Yeah, treating. That's what I meant. But
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's then a lot of people don't want to realize it, but like everybody sees a massive difference in themselves, right? When you go through your like week benders where you eat like shit, what does everybody say? Oh God, dude, I've been eating like shit this week.
feel like shit.
Yeah, I feel like shit. I'm like low energy. I'm super depressed. Like my body's going backwards. Ugh, I need to like get back to it. You're like, okay, cool. That's 1 week. Imagine doing that for 10 years and tell me that you're not going to feel depressed.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about people? Because there's obviously people who go to the gym and eat healthy. Maybe you've had clients, even competitors, still fucking, I'm depressed. I need to be on
Mm-hmm.
antidepressants.
Well,
But
here's
they
the
have all
question.
the other shit in check. The lifestyle is there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I don't think that the lifestyle fixes it. I think that if you don't have that lifestyle, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance, right? If you're not eating good, if you're not getting water, if you're not getting good sunlight, if you're not around the right people, like you're putting yourself in a situation where it's just, there's no help. But where does depression exist?
In the mind.
Yeah, but it doesn't, the mind,
In the ego.
when the mind is present, depression doesn't exist. When the mind's in the future, depression doesn't exist. Usually anxiety exists in the future, right? So depression is usually a byproduct of something in the past. There's usually something in the past that we have yet to let go of, and we're dragging this ankle weight around with us, and we're feeling so weighed down. And like, dude, I've been depressed. Mm-hmm. Like I've been there. I put a gun to my head. I almost ended it all because I was so fucking depressed because I was in a situation where I wasn't myself and I needed that rest. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people, and this is where we actually full circle to the beginning of the podcast where I said everybody's number one goal is to find peace. And I think that people mess up because they think that peace is an addition problem. It's like, what do I need to take? What do I need to do? What do I need to add? And peace is actually a subtraction problem. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to let go of?
Yeah.
And I think when we can look at it from that way, we can really empower ourselves to get closer to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, a lot of people hold on things, but a lot of people, I think it all comes back to the whole energetic spirituality thing. And this is why I think a lot of people, I don't want to say that all people don't need antidepressants. I just feel like I'm not qualified to say that at all. But I have seen plenty of people get off antidepressants and be perfectly fine. Like I said, I've posted that fucking book, and that book is one equation, that fucking book, Power Now. And I've gotten 3 or 4 messages. I've gotten dozens of messages of people saying how that book changed their fucking life. Got recommended clients, but I've gotten specifically 3 or 4 messages on Instagram. It actually made my girlfriend start crying every time she read them, because they said that me posting that book, they read that book, it stopped them from killing themselves. So these people are obviously super fucking depressed, but just learning how to be present, how to meditate, entirely changed that for these people.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the kicker, dude. You know, and there's always going to be duality to anything. I think that if I could give one like final massive takeaway from anybody listening, is that no matter what anybody says and how right it is, there will always be an opposite that can counteract it. That's just the truth, right? You can say like, hey, lifting weights will make you strong. And then there's like, they could be like, well, I can't because I have this and it'll make me weak, right? Like, hey, doing this can help with depression. Well, I can't do that because it's just no matter what, there's duality in everything. So it's about using your own discernment to find like which thing that I'm listening to right now actually resonates with me and how can I use that to make myself stronger. That's it.
You think it has to come from just the person getting to that point? Because
you can be you can be depressed and do nothing. You can. You can be depressed. You can be depressed and you can try everything in the world to get out of the depression and you will not get out of it. And it is because you have convinced yourself that the answer is outside of yourself. So it's like, oh, let me take all these drugs that actually make me just numb to my emotions. Oh, I feel so much better. I'm not depressed anymore. Why do I feel so blank? Why am I so bland? Why am I not present? Well, it's because you've just numbed all your emotions. And then what happens? Well, then the drugs wear off. Maybe you forget to take it one day, and now your depression's 10 times worse because you're no longer used to experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where people, right? There's a oh fuck, I wish I had the study. One of my therapists in San Diego, he wrote a couple books, and one of the studies in his books, he talked about relapses of depression after meds and exercise. Meds and then ones with exercise. And the people who were depressed and got on meds, when they got off the meds, 87% of them relapsed. Like went right back to depression and needed meds again. The ones who battled their depression with exercise, it was only like 17% or something like that relapse. It was crazy. So he pretty much broke down in his book how like we actually can cure depression significantly better without the use of drugs. Yeah. The book for anybody who wants it is called Code for Joy by Dr. George Pratt.
Okay.
Man's a genius.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So have you personally had clients, I'm sure you obviously have, that have come off of antidepressants?
Mm-hmm.
And they got over it.
Yeah. I've had I've had clients come off of antidepressants and they've used microdose shrooms as a bridge. And
it's funny you say this stuff, and it's like I completely agree with you on here, and I am on the same page as you. But I just like I can imagine the person out there that hears this shit and they're like, oh, this fucking guy psychedelics, this fucking doesn't believe in the healthcare system, doesn't want to fucking believe in science, doesn't want to use the antidepressant. Like there's always those people.
Well, here's the thing: if people believed in science, they wouldn't keep backing their claims off of studies that were 20 years old. Like I do believe in science, and that's why I know science evolves, which means, yeah. But it's like, 3 years ago, I was posting about shrooms for depression all the time, and people were like, "You're fucking dangerous." You could look me up on Reddit and find those threads about how I was a psychopath and I was a drugs dealer, and I had no idea what I was talking about. And I was so dangerous and I was irresponsible. And then a year later, the government was like, hey, we're going to start using psilocybin to treat depression. And everyone was like, wow, that's such a cool fucking idea. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like the people who are going against the grain, like the pioneers of like, hey, we're doing these things and like, we can do this better. And everyone's like, you're fucking crazy. They're usually 10 years ahead of science, right? Science is always 10 years behind, is like the saying.
Yeah. So I think the strongest cure to everything is your mind.
Yeah. 100%.
Have you ever seen the movie, it's called Heal?
With Joe Dispenza.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's Joe Dispenza's movie. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, you've seen that movie.
Yep.
Yeah, this movie's fucking crazy. These guys literally change. The whole thing is about how stress basically can kill you. Stress can kill you, causes all these problems. People change their mentality. Cancer. Yeah, literally. You see people who have cancer who stress or negative. This cancer grows, gets worse, and the people who stay positive, the people who recover are always the ones who stay positive. This guy, the one that was crazy to me is the guy who fucking fixed his back. That shit was insane to me.
That's Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. This guy broke his back and fixed it just by sitting there.
By meditating.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got control of his mind. I'm actually doing a week advanced workshop with him in Cancun in 2 weeks.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's gonna be fucking amazing. But yeah, I mean, there's his work is extremely groundbreaking because he's basically putting science behind the fact that our mind can literally heal everything that's inside of our bodies. Everything.
Yeah. It's very interesting. If you guys want to check it out, like you said, it's called Heal on Amazon Prime. And a lot of people might be skeptical going into it, but you clearly see these people, the science is there. The guy literally fixes back. These people, you could see the difference in how their mentality changes your little fucking physiology, what happens in your body just by your state of mind. It's actually insane, and it's really just eye-opening if you can be open-minded and believe it, I guess.
Yeah, it's gene expression. Genes respond to the environment. That's epigenetics. Your genes respond to your environment. So if we change the environment, we change the gene expression. So if you constantly are perceiving stress, right? If you're on bodybuilding and you're constantly anxious about your show, you're like, I'm not going to be ready. You're having this heightened fight or flight response. So your body is assuming that there's a threat. So your body starts to release the genes that needs for a stressful environment. So you overproduce cortisol. All your blood goes from the internal of your body and goes out in your outer extremities. You hypersecrete insulin. Your pupils dilate. And you eat carbs first thing in the morning, you have a massive spike, you crash, you're hypoglycemic the rest of the day. Your sleep patterns are off, everything.
You ruin your whole prep like that.
You literally deteriorate because your genes are being signaled that the environment is stressful. So if you can change the environment from the internal, right? If you can sit down in the morning, if you can ground yourself, and that's why I visualize like the life I want, sort of speaking. So I feel that peace, that groundedness, that abundance, that gratitude. My body starts to signal the genes that we are in that environment. And so my body by nature changes to fit that. So I start walking differently, I show up differently, I act differently, and I think differently because I am now dictating what my external environment is by changing my internal environment.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's crazy. But yeah, let's wrap this up for now. We're almost at the 2-hour mark here. I don't want to let go on too long. I know
it's a good amount of time.
Yeah, I've had some go past 3 hours. They could go on forever. I could talk forever, but right now, what are you currently doing? You're not taking on any more clients for coaching, right?
Not for bodybuilding. No. Right now we have. So there's two offers that I have right now. If you want to go into the mastermind, which is one of the calls that you were talking about earlier, the mastermind, we basically help people, entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, come in, work on pretty much all the stuff I talked about here, but we also give direction on how you can build and scale your business. We do business audits, we do sales audits, we work with you one-on-one, help you basically make more money.
It's for any type of business.
Any service-based. We're service-based. We have a lot of coaches in there, but we're more of a service-based entrepreneur. If you're a product and you're doing B2B, that's probably not the best space for you unless you just want to come in and do the healing and like show up better as a leader, because that's one of the biggest things we focus on. And then my other offer, if you're currently doing a business in the coaching space and your company is doing over $10,000 a month profit after everybody's paid out, then we can talk about an acquisition, and we basically insert our team and scale your company to 6 figures months.
So you do an acquisition only for fitness coaches?
No, just coaching models. Yeah.
All coaching models.
All coaching models. That's my bread and butter.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So you guys check them out if you are interested in any of that stuff. Do you have any resources, like any references for some of the stuff we talked about? Anybody who wants to like go and read about energetics and this stuff? Do you have anything you recommend?
Yeah, I think 2 really good books that come to mind. One is Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And then the other one is Mind to Matter by Dawson Church. And the foreword of that is actually by Joe Dispenza as well. But they're just both fucking crazy, is what I'll say. They're both really crazy fucking books.
Yeah.
The Mind to Matter one is like pure science breakdowns of the power of the mind when it comes to healing. I mean, they did this study. This guy, just real quick, this guy had like massive blood clots, and he had to get they had to like cut open his chest and everything to remove them. He had like 8 or something. And so the night before something, they had like drawn all the dots on him or whatever to like know where to cut. And the night before, this shaman had all these students sitting around a circle. They covered one of the students with bay leaves and told the student that his name was that guy's name. And they all like just, I don't know, did some like healing thing. You don't like see the video. It's in the book. The next day, the guy went in for the surgery and they did the scan one more time and he had no blood clots.
Bruh.
So it's just like
crazy.
his book is like breaking down like actual research and studies like that. And it was actually like, that was one of the books I read that was like blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
Yeah. So
all right.
That's what I got for you guys.
All right, guys. Check it out if you want. Thanks for coming on, Nick. You guys give him a follow, and I will see you guys next time on the next episode of Brass Tack Bodybuilding. Peace out.